Relax, my sister Tessa laughed, swirling her wine like she owned the air in the room. It's just paperwork. I didn't laugh back. I sat at our parents' dining table, same oak table we did homework on, same table Mom used to knead dough on, and I slid a manila envelope across the placemats like I was dealing a card I'd been holding for years. Tessa's smile stayed up for half a second. Then her eyes dropped to the bold black letters. Police report. Identity theft. The room went quiet in that weird way family rooms do, like the house is listening. My mom's fork paused midair. My dad's jaw clenched once, hard, the way it did when he was about to tell us something we didn't want to hear. And my brother Kyle, bless him, just blinked like his brain couldn't decide if this was real or a prank. Tessa's husband, Brent, tried to speak first. Okay, can we not... Not what? I asked softly. My voice sounded calm, but my hands were steady in a way that felt unfamiliar. Not talk about the $623,000 I apparently owe? Tessa's eyes snapped up. What are you doing? I looked at her like I was seeing her clearly for the first time. I'm taking my name back. Dad leaned forward, voice low. Maya, tell me this isn't a misunderstanding. I didn't answer him yet. I couldn't, because if I started with the beginning, I'd cry, and I refused to cry in front of Tessa. Not tonight. Tonight was for truth, and I hadn't even told them the worst part, the part that made my stomach go cold every time I remembered it. If you think this started with that envelope, you don't understand how long my sister's been practicing stealing from me with a smile. Before we go any further, drop a quick comment. Where are you watching from, and what time is it there right now? And if you're into real stories with real twists, hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. I'm Maya Harper, 34. I work in claims and compliance for a hospital network, the kind of job where you learn to spot fraud like you spot mold, quiet, spreading, dangerous if nobody says the word out loud. I live in a rented duplex with a tiny backyard and a stubborn rosemary plant I've kept alive through 2 brutal winters. It's not glamorous, but it's mine. I pay my bills on time. I don't chase shiny things. I like peace. Tessa hates peace. She's my older sister by 3 years, and from childhood she carried herself like she was being watched, like life was a stage and she was the lead. Pretty hair, perfect laugh, polished outfits even at the grocery store. The kind of woman who can turn a casual hi into an entrance. Our parents fed it without meaning to. Tessa's going places, they'd say, proud and dazzled. And me? I was steady, the word you use when you want to compliment someone without giving them attention. Tessa got the new car at 19 because she needed it for her future. I got a ride to my shift at the diner because responsibility builds character. Tessa got her real estate license in a ring before 25. I got a stack of textbooks and a careful plan. At family gatherings, Tessa told stories, big wins, big dreams, and I learned to keep my own life small, not because I was ashamed, because I didn't want it picked apart. That's the part people miss. Sometimes you don't hide because you're weak. You hide because your family turns your stability into a resource. Tessa didn't just want admiration, she wanted access, and I didn't see it because she never kicked the door down. She just kept showing up with a key she never earned. I should have known what Tessa was capable of the first time she asked for one small favor and treated my hesitation as betrayal. It happened on a Wednesday, right in the middle of a normal day. I was at my desk at work answering an email about a denied claim when my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. Usually I ignore those, but something made me pick up. "Is this Maya Harper?" a man asked, polite and firm. "Yes." "This is Eli from Ridgestone Mortgage Services. I'm calling about your delinquent loan." I actually smiled like an idiot because I thought it was a scam. "I don't have a loan." There was a pause, the kind of pause that tells you the other person has paperwork. "Ma'am, you do. Highland Ridge Drive, mortgage amount $623,000. You're 92 days past due." I remember gripping my phone so hard my knuckles stung. "Read the address again," I whispered. He did, and my stomach dropped because I knew that street. Tessa's street. the dream house she'd posted all over social media, with captions like "manifested this" and "God is good." The craftsman-style beauty with the stone steps and the wide porch and the staged family photos. I walked into the restroom at work and locked the door like I was a teenager hiding from reality. I pulled my credit report on my phone, and there it was. Not just the mortgage, a line of credit, 2 credit cards, a home improvement loan, all in my name. My personal information updated to Tessa's address, like my life had been moved into her house without my permission. I stared at the mirror over the sink and watched my face change. Not panic, not tears, recognition. Because nobody knew my information like Tessa did. Nobody had access like she did. Nobody had the hunger she did. And I knew exactly what my parents would say when I told them. Don't ruin the family. I didn't call Tessa first. I did something far colder, because I wanted proof she couldn't charm her way out of. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open and my dinner untouched. The rosemary plant by the window looked greener than usual, like it didn't know my world had tilted. I did what I always do when emotions tried to drown me. I got clinical. I froze my credit, filed alerts with the bureaus, printed every account detail, saved screenshots, took notes with dates and names, and then I did the part that felt like swallowing glass. I called my parents. Mom answered first, cheerful. "Honey, how was work?" "Mom," I said, and my voice cracked just enough to make her stop breathing. "My name is on a mortgage, Tessa's mortgage." Silence. Then a soft, disbelieving laugh. "No, that can't be right." "It's right." Dad took the phone. His voice had that careful edge. "Maya, maybe she co-signed something with you by mistake." "Dad," I cut in, "you don't mistake your way into $623,000. The line went quiet again, and I could almost hear them rearranging the story in their minds so it hurt less. Mom whispered, "We should talk to Tessa, privately, quietly." There it was, the family religion, quietly. I swallowed, tasted metal. "No, I'm talking to the bank tomorrow." Dad sighed like I was being dramatic. "Don't do anything you can't undo." I wanted to scream. Undo? Like this was a spilled drink? So I didn't scream. I went silent, because I finally understood something that should have been obvious years ago. If I tried to argue with my parents, I'd lose. If I tried to argue with Tessa, I lose. So I stopped arguing. I started building a case. The next morning, I took PTO, drove to the mortgage office, and asked for copies of everything. And when the loan officer slid those documents toward me, my name, my signature, my income inflated like a balloon, I felt calm in a way that scared me. Not because I wasn't hurt, because I was done being surprised. The papers told me how she did it, but the real question was why, until one tiny detail made me realize she wasn't just desperate, she was planning my downfall. In the stack of documents, there was an email address tied to me. It looked almost right. One extra character, one small shift you'd miss if you weren't looking. That's the trick with fraud. It hides inside what looks familiar. Then the loan officer pointed out something else. "Ma'am, the income verification attached to your file is impressive." "How impressive?" I asked. He turned the screen toward me. $205,000 a year. I laughed, one sharp sound. "I make 51. His face tightened. "Then this is identity theft. You need to file a police report and dispute immediately." I nodded like I was ordering coffee. Inside, something hard formed. Because Tessa hadn't just used my name, she'd built a whole fantasy version of me. High salary, perfect credit, willing to take on debt so she could live a life she couldn't afford. And then I found the line item that made my blood run cold. A pending application, not approved yet. A HELOC request, a home equity line against the same property. My property, my debt, my name. That meant the mortgage delinquency wasn't the end. It was the beginning. They were going to drain it, pull cash out, rack up more debt, and then what? Walk away? Let me take the fall? I sat in my car outside the mortgage office and stared at the steering wheel until my hands stopped shaking. Then I filed the police report, not because I wanted revenge, because I wanted to survive. And still, I didn't tell Tessa. I watched her online instead. Her posts about blessings, her photos in her dream kitchen, her captions about leveling up. I watched her brag while my credit score bled, and I realized if I confronted her too early, she'd cry, she'd charm, she'd spin. So I waited. I let her think she was safe, because the best moment to reveal a monster is when the room finally sees the teeth. When my parents invited everyone to Sunday dinner to celebrate Tessa, I knew exactly what kind of stage they were building, and I decided to bring my own script. Mom's text came like nothing was wrong. Dinner Sunday. Everyone's coming. Tessa wants to share exciting news. Exciting news, of course. Tessa didn't just want a house, she wanted applause for it too. I spent Saturday preparing the way people prepare for war, quietly, methodically, with a strange tenderness toward my own future. I printed copies of the police report, the mortgage statement showing delinquency, the HELOC attempt, the bank's fraud packet. I put them in a folder so neat it looked like it belonged to someone who didn't shake when she was betrayed. Then I did the part that made me feel like I was stepping out of my old skin. I wrote a short statement, not emotional, not angry, clean, because I know family like mine. The moment you cry, they call you unstable. The moment you shout, they call you disrespectful. So I planned to speak like a woman who couldn't be dismissed. Sunday came. The house smelled like lasagna and garlic bread and denial. Tessa arrived late, wearing cream and confidence. She kissed Mom's cheek, hugged Dad, and glanced at me with that bright smile that always felt like a warning. "Maya," she said, sweet, "you look tired." I smiled back. "Work's been interesting." She laughed like she didn't hear the blade under it. Dinner started with small talk. Kyle showed photos of his kids. Dad talked about the weather like weather mattered. Mom asked me if I'd thought about dating again, like my life was a waiting room. Then Tessa clinked her glass. "I have something to share." She stood, hand on her husband's arm. "Brent and I are expanding. New projects, bigger vision." Dad beamed. Mom looked proud enough to glow. And I realized sitting there that Tessa had always been good at one thing, making everyone believe her life was proof of their success as parents. So they protected her, even when she was wrong, even when she was dangerous. I waited until the room settled. Then I stood, too. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult her. I just placed one document on the table and watched the truth finally take up space. "There's something I need to share," I said, and the table went still. Mom smiled nervously. "Honey, can it wait?" "No," I said gently. "It can't." I reached into my bag and pulled out the envelope like it was heavy. Then I slid it across the table toward Tessa. "Read the top page," I told her. Her smile tightened, but she reached for it anyway, because Tessa can't resist being the center. Her eyes scanned the header. Police report. The color drained from her face so fast it was almost impressive. "What is this?" she whispered, like she'd never heard of consequences. Dad's voice came sharp. "Maya, police? What's going on?" I looked at him first. "The bank called me. They said I owe $623,000 on a mortgage I never signed." Mom gasped. "What?" I kept my voice warm, controlled, human. "The house on Highland Ridge Drive is in my name." The room turned toward Tessa like a spotlight. She laughed, brittle, panicked. "That's insane." I opened the folder and placed the mortgage statement down, then the HELOC request. "Is it?" I asked softly. "Because these are official documents." Brent stood up too fast, chair scraping. "We can handle this privately." Dad's eyes went cold. "Sit down." Tessa's lips parted, searching for a story. "We were going to fix it." Mom's voice shook. "Tessa, tell me you didn't." Tessa snapped, sudden and ugly. "You don't understand. We were drowning." I nodded once. "So you tied bricks to my ankles." Her eyes flashed. "You weren't even using your credit for anything. You live in a rental like a college kid." That insult was a gift, because the room heard it. Kyle's face tightened. Dad's hands curled into fists. Mom looked like she'd been slapped. I leaned in, voice quiet. "You didn't borrow my name. You stole it. And you kept stealing. Credit cards, a line of credit, and a HELOC attempt." Brent exhaled through his nose, cornered. It got uncomfortable. I looked at him. No, it got comfortable. For you. And that's when I saw it in Tessa's eyes. Not remorse, fear that the room was no longer hers. I thought the worst was over until Tessa said one sentence that proved she didn't just steal from me, she meant to bury me. Tessa's voice went low, venom wrapped in softness. "If you go through with this," she said, "you'll destroy Mom and Dad." There it was, the old leash. I watched my mother flinch like she'd been trained. I watched my dad's face tighten like he wanted to argue with reality. And I felt that familiar, toxic tug inside me. The one that says, "Be the good daughter, be quiet, take the hit." Then Brent spoke, trying to sound reasonable. "Maya, the damage is already done. Let us make payments and..." "And what?" I asked. "Wait until you drain the equity and leave me with bankruptcy in my name?" Tessa's eyes widened, just slightly, and that tiny reaction was the loudest confession in the room. Mom's voice cracked. "Tessa, were you going to do that?" Tessa didn't answer fast enough. Dad stood up slowly. "Answer your mother." Tessa's mascara shimmered at the edge of tears, but her chin lifted. "We needed time." I swallowed, and I swear I could feel my childhood falling off me like old paint. "No," I said. "You needed a victim." Then I turned to my parents. "I'm not asking you to pick sides. I'm telling you what's happening." Mom whispered, "Honey, prison?" "I didn't choose this," I said, and my voice stayed gentle because I wasn't punishing them anymore. She did. Dad's eyes looked older than I'd ever seen them. "What do you want, Maya?" I breathed in, slow. "I want my name cleared. I want my life back, and I want it on record that I didn't do this." Tessa's voice rose. "You're really going to do this to your own sister?" I looked at her, steady. "You did it to me first." Then I picked up my bag. "I'm leaving, and if anyone calls me selfish for protecting myself, I'll know exactly what kind of love you're offering." I walked out while Mom cried behind me, and Dad didn't stop me. He didn't chase me. He just said, very quietly, like it hurt him to say it, "Tessa, what have you done?" By Monday, the story didn't belong to my family anymore. It belonged to the state. And that's when Tessa finally learned what she'd built her dream house on. The next week felt like living inside a siren. Calls from investigators, emails from the bank's fraud department, certified letters, dispute forms, statements. I gave everything they asked for. Dates, screenshots, the timeline. I handed my life over to a process because the process was the only thing that didn't care about family politics. Mom called at night, voice small. "She's still your sister." I held the phone and stared at my rosemary plant, the tiny leaves trembling in the heater air. She was my sister when she used my name. Biology didn't stop her. Mom cried softly. "I don't know how we got here." I said the truth nobody likes. We got here because we kept rescuing her from consequences. Dad didn't call for a while. When he finally did, his voice was flat. "They're saying Tessa could lose her license." I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. I just said, she used her license to hurt me. Because that's the part that hit hardest. Tessa didn't do this in a moment of confusion. She did it with skill. Her perfect life began to crack publicly. Neighbors noticed the unmarked cars. A local real estate group quietly removed her profile. Brent's work placed him on leave pending investigation. People who used to comment heart emojis went silent. Tessa texted me once. "Please, we'll fix it. Just drop it." I stared at the message for a long time. Not because I was tempted, because I finally saw how simple her love was. If I protected her, she was family. If I didn't, I was disposable. The bank eventually confirmed what I already knew. The signature wasn't mine. The email wasn't mine. The income wasn't mine. The debt wasn't mine. But clearing your name is slow. It's paper heavy. It's exhausting. Still, something unexpected happened as the process moved forward. My body got lighter. I slept deeper. Because shame is heavy, and I'd been carrying shame that wasn't mine. I thought the ending would be courtrooms and headlines, but the real ending came in a quiet place when my father handed me something I waited my whole life to receive. Months later, when everything settled enough to breathe, I stood in a small office with a pen in my hand. Not a forged signature, my real one. I signed paperwork that restored my credit and closed the last dispute. I walked out into cold sunshine, took a breath, and felt something rare: safety inside my own name. Tessa didn't get away with it. She couldn't. Her license was gone. Their dream house wasn't theirs anymore, because it was built on fraud, and fraud doesn't hold weight forever. The shiny life she curated collapsed under the boring, stubborn force of documentation. And here's the part people don't say out loud. Watching her fall didn't heal me. What healed me was the boundary. One evening, Dad came to my duplex alone. No mom, no speeches. Just him, holding a small clay pot with a fern inside. He cleared his throat. "I should have protected you." I didn't answer right away, because my throat closed like a door. He added quieter, "We trained you to be the one who absorbs damage. That was wrong." It wasn't a perfect apology. It wasn't magic, but it was real. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the wall holding up someone else's son. I felt like a person. I still don't know if I'll ever forgive Tessa. Maybe forgiveness isn't the point. Maybe the point is freedom. Because love without accountability is just permission to keep hurting you. So if you're listening and your family is asking you to stay quiet while you drown, hear me. Silence isn't peace. Sometimes silence is surrender. And you don't owe anyone your life just to keep their image clean. Like this video so more people who need this message can find it. And subscribe if you believe in truth, boundaries, and stories where strength wins in the end. Your support keeps these stories coming.